People hear NSC, they work for Mike Waltz, they might think, oh, this is about Signalgate. It's not.
It is important to note that Laura Loomer is driving this. As you noted, she posted a video once that said that 9/11 was an inside job.
We've got a pretty crazy story to cover that broke yesterday of Trump firing national security staff, which might make you think, oh, he's finally handling the signal leaks. Well, it's not because of the signal leaks, but because self-avowed white nationalist Laura Loomer told him to. Seriously, no joke. As, of course, you know, Pete Hegseth and Mike Waltz, they still have their jobs in national security, but who the white nationalist says fired, they've got to go. So leave us a like. You know how the spiel I always gives helps us a bunch. It's free. We really appreciate it. And let's otherwise get to the story.
On the campaign trail, she actually had pretty good proximity to President Trump when he was outside of the White House. She traveled with him to the 9/11 memorial on the anniversary, even though, as you noted, she posted a video once that said that 9/11 was an inside job. And she has been complaining publicly that she has not had nearly as much access. Exactly. She's tried to get to the press briefing room. She's publicly tweeted at White House officials complaining that they weren't letting her onto the grounds. And obviously, to get onto the White House campus, you have to be cleared in by a White House staffer. You give your social security number to the Secret Service. You can't just walk into the White House. And we saw her walking out of the West Wing yesterday, and that was after she had a personal meeting with President Trump inside the Oval Office. And we've now confirmed details, first reported by the New York Times, that she met with President Trump. Michael Waltz, the national security advisor, had just had a meeting with the president. He stayed behind and was in that meeting with Laura Loomer, where she was attacking several members of his staff at the National Security Council, saying that they were not sufficiently loyal to President Trump.
Okay, let's briefly explain why this is insane before we keep going. Laura Loomer is, as I mentioned, a self-avowed white nationalist. She speaks at white nationalist events. She's pretty open about these beliefs, as well as her other racist beliefs like Islamophobia and such. She's most known, quite literally, for being very racist very publicly. Like on the campaign trail, you might remember she is the person who tweeted, quote, "The White House would smell like curry if Kamala Harris won," which led to Trump and his allies pretty quickly distancing themselves from her, at least on the campaign trail, where we can see now, just like with Steve Bannon, it was all just for the campaign because she's still in the inner circle. He's still taking her advice and acting on it, mind you, where, as I always say, the presidency is just as much about the constituency of people around him as it is the person himself. And, you know, with Biden, we got Bernie, we got Warren, we got antitrust, we got worker first stuff, regardless of what Biden's neoliberal beliefs are. With Trump, however, we just get a room full of racists.
We saw her walking out of the West Wing yesterday, and that was after she had a personal meeting with President Trump inside the Oval Office. And we've now confirmed details, first reported by the New York Times, that she met with President Trump. Michael Waltz, the national security advisor, had just had a meeting with the president. He stayed behind and was in that meeting with Laura Loomer, where she was attacking several members of his staff at the National Security Council, saying that they were not sufficiently loyal to President Trump. That includes his principal deputy right underneath him. His name is Alex Wong, and several others, and was essentially arguing that President Trump should fire them. And then she left shortly before that tariff announcement came out yesterday afternoon. And so now what we're witnessing right now is a purge is underway at the NSC with several of the names that she brought to President Trump, arguing that they should not work for him.
In the next clip, we're going to go a little bit more into who exactly these people are, like what their jobs were and how it pertains to nothing with the signal leaks. But I do want you to note that this is as Trump's White House spokesperson says, we're not investigating the signal leaks. Trump isn't going to reprimand or fire anyone for leaking classified battle plans. But now there is a purge going on at national security, but it's on the basis of loyalty, not merit, loyalty, where anyone who is not a yes man will now be fired. And I bet they use this as the defense. In a few months, when the signal leaks come up where they say, well, we cleaned house shortly after, Trump fired, and as we're learning, this has, again, nothing to do with that, but instead advice from a neo-Nazi. These people, which we'll learn in this clip, had nothing to do with the signal leak. Loyalty, instead, is what they're valuing over what? Ability to handle sensitive information?
People hear NSC, they work for Mike Waltz, they might think, oh, this is about Signalgate. It's not.
No. None of
Nothing
these
to do with it. It's about loyalty.
Are related to that, from what we understand.
Loyalty.
Right, it's alleged loyalty, or the argument is that they're too hawkish, that they don't actually share the president's views on that. I mean, you can look at the Signalgate chat, and there were even disagreements with the vice president saying that he didn't believe that they should strike. And so, anyway, but on this, it is important to note that Laura Loomer is driving this.
The three staffers that have been fired here are outside of Washington Beltway national security circles, these are pretty anonymous people. They are foreign policy minds that have serious resumes, that have worked serious jobs on Capitol Hill, in the State Department, in think tanks. You know, these are people that are well known in national security circles because they are longtime practitioners of foreign policy, experienced in making that kind of policy. These are the people that are sort of.
So it pretty much boils down to more of what we've seen. Lifelong career professionals who are nonpartisan, willing to tell Trump no if it's the right answer, right? With the experience and the know-how to be trusted, are being fired for, well, those exact reasons. Trump instead, he just wants to act with impunity without anyone telling him no. And he's willing to forego American safety, American security, all for loyalty. Party of merit, remember, I guess loyalty is merit, right? But if it means he gets what he wants, he's going to do it. And my assumption here, which we should all be fearful of, is that he probably has some crazy war plans, battle plans, something that these people were not willing to sign off on. Laura Loomer said, okay, well, then they have to go. And Trump got rid of them. I mean, in his first term, we saw him want to invade Venezuela. We know he raised that to his generals. We know he raised like shooting protesters, right? Bombing Mexico and more, right? Only to be told no. And this term, he seems to have no regard for like electability of his party or anything like that. So he knows he has 4 years and he's going to do as much damage in those 4 years as he can.